In that same year we got that shit live action movie, a video game called Ben 10 Protectorverse released on the PlayStation 2, PlayStation Portable, Nintendo Wii and Nintendo DS. This game is really nostalgic to me along with the entire Ben 10 franchise. I played this game a lot as a kid, and it was sadly the only Ben 10 media I had besides the first season of the original series. It honestly sucks I missed out on most of the original series when I was a kid for a few years because Season 2 and 3 are some of the best episodes the series ever made, in my opinion. Thankfully Alien Force and Ultimate Alien existed, so there was at least more Ben 10 adventures I could watch. And eventually, before my last year of primary school, I saw most of the important episodes post Season 1, so that was fun. Sadly, I stopped watching the series mainly because of, well, Omniverse, and also this was when I was getting into high school and, well, I became something that rather not be discussed. Thankfully around late 2017, a great friend of mine brought it up once in a conversation, and eventually it led to me rewatching the original series and rediscovering this game. I sadly no longer owned it on the Nintendo Wii because, well, I became a complete edgy teenager and I destroyed my copy I had as a kid, so fuck you high school me. But I did get to re-experience it around 2018, and ever since I replayed it, it became one of my favorite games of all time. So without any further delay, let's look into this childhood favorite of mine and see what's in store for Ben in the world of gaming. The game begins at nighttime where Ben is sleeping, when suddenly a Vilgax drone sucks out the power of the Omnitrix, somehow. The following morning a meteorite crashes where the gang is, and Gwen uses her computer to hack into the ranger station cameras to see what the thing looks like. Ben of course tells her not to bother and goes hero.
It's hero time. Go mighty Omnitrix power.
So, Gwen, what do you have from those ranger station cameras?
So it appears Ben can't transform to any of his aliens. But once we get into the first stage, we found out that Ben can transform into Forums and Heat Blast. Why did you take almost all the other aliens Ben has gone up to this point, yet decide to leave 2 of them there? What kind of fucking logic is that? Anywho, getting to the gameplay itself, it's a platformer and beat 'em up gameplay style that actually works rather well. Forearms and Heat Blast control really well, and feel like how you'd imagine they play. For control, square is light attacks, triangle is heavy attacks, circle is special attacks, pressing the X button and then pressing one of the other buttons can allow you to do an aerial attack. You can also do combos, but more on that until later. You can also use L1 to block, but I rarely use it until the later part of the game. One thing I should mention is that if you use heavy or special attacks, your time as the selected alien will be shortened. Something I really like because it adds a layer of depth to the gameplay. You'll have to think what attacks to use and which ones to save so you don't turn back into Ben. Luckily you can stay as an alien for a little bit longer by collecting chrono crystals. During sections where you aren't fighting enemies, the alien's abilities can be used to solve puzzles and some of them are pretty simple. Which sucks because they could have used these abilities more creatively. Thankfully these don't take too long and don't ruin the pacing of the level, so there's that. Getting further into the stage, we see that it's a Vilgax robot, and it's shown constantly as you go on during the stage, hyping you up for the battle that's soon to come. Just before we get to the boss, we enter a cave, very purple one at that, and it's here where I can talk about those combos. As you've noticed, when enemies die, yellow orbs appear that you can collect, and when the gauge fills up, you can unlock new moves to pull off. And it literally spoils which aliens we'll be playing as soon. Anywho, these combos make the combat even more fun. The animation sound effects really sell it for me. And of course, they do a lot of damage. And so we have reached our first boss fight, and it really means business. And I admit it because it can take you down in just a few hits. So how do you attack it? Well, when it tries to slam you, its hand will get stuck momentarily, and you will have to attack it just before it frees itself. Once you've attacked it enough, a quick time event will appear and for some reason you'll have to change back into Ben, only to transform into one of his aliens. Despite it contradicting how the Omnitrix are, never fucking mind. Luckily these aren't difficult since you'll only have to press 3 of the main buttons when these acquire. Plus, we're given enough time as well. And once you've destroyed this thing 2 more times, Ben destroys the robot like a Chad. After beating the shit out of it, Ben discovers a crystal from the remains of the robot, and it turns out to be a piece of the Omnitrix. It appears that it was powered by that crystal, and Max states that someone sent that knowing Ben was weakened. I wonder who that could be. Anyways, Ben dials up the returning alien, and I'll let you see it.
Check it out. I can pick my nose so fast you can't even see it.
I wonder if they know who they're dealing with.
Getting back on the road, the gang questions how and why the robot was sent. Which is kinda obvious who it is, but whatever. But we don't have time for that because Vilgaxtrons are attacking a group of Forever Knights.
Forever Knights.
Forever Knights? Maybe Enoch is behind all this.
Talk about getting caught between a rock and a hard place. Whose butt am I supposed to kick?
I think all of them?
Sounds like a plan.
Getting to the next stage, Accelerate is a joy to play as. While he is slippery when attacking, his attacks do hit hard, and his special attack is quite useful for enemies. Speaking of enemies, we have the Forever Knights in this stage. They are pretty much on the same level as the Vilgaxtrons. Side note, I really love Ben's lines during the beat 'em up sections of the game. I love almost all of Ben's aliens, and more often than not, their voice is partly why I love them. Getting to the halfway point, we get a new enemy type for the Forever Knights known as the Forever Knights Champion. And like the name states, they take a lot of attacks to kill, so use forearms for these types of enemies. Also, this stage is rather short than I remembered. Although that's mainly because when I was a kid, I used to destroy everything in the stage just to get new moves. Despite the health orbs and chrono crystals not having the ability to do that. Yes, I was a very retarded child. Also, this game likes to hold your hand sometimes. Why do I say that? Because Max and Gwen will literally tell you shit that even little kids who are playing this game could figure out. Anyways, after beating them up, the remaining one that's not knocked out explains that Enoch is planning to take equipment from Area 51 in order to stop whoever is the mastermind behind all this.
Enoch is taking over.
And he also claims that Enoch is the last hope for Earth.
Enoch doesn't offer hope to anyone but himself.
We should find him before he makes a bad situation even worse.
Area 51 is my favorite level in this area of the game. We get some good enemy variety. The music choice is great, helping the progression even more satisfying, and each section of the stage is unique compared to the previous stages. This was also the first time I decided to not just mic my way through and use different moves, like the garbage toss, which is activated by pressing circle and square at a small enemy, and it's pretty funny seeing them get thrown around like that. Once we get to the lower levels of the area, the music gets so fucking hype. I should also mention this is from the show, and I am glad it's music from the actual series, not some shitty music made specifically for the adaptation. Looking right at you, Race Against Time. Once we've gone to the construction center, we have to take this really slow platform rising up, but who cares? This music is hype as fuck. And once we've finally gotten to Enoch, he does not fuck around. He'll charge a Chaos Blast or Energy Ring, slash you with no mercy, or he'll charge right at you before giving you the Mr. Stabums treatment. After we beat his ass, he starts getting hissy about how he's gonna be the one to save their planet from the threat that's going to kill them. Yeah, I wonder who that could be. Max tries to reason with him, but Enoch decides not to join with them, and will do it by himself. And now that he has the Omnitrix crystals, he shall use the aliens' weaponry against them. Realizing the Omnitrix holds a lot of energy, they come to the conclusion that to use the crystals for weaponry, massive amounts of electrical current are needed to generate them.
Someplace like the Hoover Dam?
Why can't you just go on a game show like all the other know-it-alls?
Once they arrive at the Hoover Dam, Enoch rises from the water, ready to battle Ben in our third boss fight.
You Tennysons will never learn. Your alien form may have hindered me before, but with the technology of this battlebot, I will smite you!
Enoch's robot in the first phase will either just slap you or smash you, and it can and will cause a lot of damage. Once you've damaged him enough, you'll need to rest for a bit, However, the thing he is resting on will cause him a lot more damage. During the second phase, he adds 2 new moves you need to avoid. Not only will he punch under the dam, he will also charge a laser beam, and if you end up getting hit by it, he'll laugh at you. What a dickhead you are, eat electricity you yee-ass excuse for a knight. The third phase is the same, but now his attacks have shockwaves that can keep you on the ground, giving him enough time to get his hand off the ground. Once we've done some more damage to him, it's time for another quick time event. And holy shit, Ben is brutal as fuck with him. He really has come a long way from burning a forest, hasn't he? After the boss fight, the crystal rises up from the ocean, yet not Enoch for some reason, but who the hell cares about him anyway? The next alien Ben got back was...
Oh, great! The Rolling Wonder? Try not to trip into too many enemies.
Alright, we got a mystery to solve. Let's bounce. Oh no.
Jesus Christ, I hope he didn't break the rust bucket. And so that was the first area of the game. And so far it's been one fun ride. So let's move on to the...
Hold on to your headgear.
What the fuck, another boss fight? No, it's not actually that. It's instead an enemy rush level. As the name states, it's a level where you have to destroy the remaining enemies in that area. There's also test your skills, as you can also earn yellow orbs to get new moves. So, thank God that's a thing. After we defeat them, we get this.
It's always nice to get in a good workout. Are we ready to go now? What?
Are you kidding? Look at this place. You can't just leave all this junk lying around.
Superheroes don't have to clean up their messes, dweeb. It's one of the perks.
Well, she does have a point, you know.
You never see this in any of the comic books.
And now we have actually cleared the first area of the game. And it seems like things will be going back to...
Miss me, Tennyson? It's payback time.
And never mind. Our next stage is San Francisco, and I love this stage. For one, it's a city level, and I'm a sucker for them. It's set at nighttime, making this one of the most atmospheric levels in the game. And adding to that atmosphere is the music in this stage. Getting into Cannonball, guess what? He controls well. His attacks do a lot of damage and are so fun to pull off. His special move is none other than the spin dash. This spin dash of his is used for ramps, and is also great for beating the shit out of enemies. Also, just as soon as I got here, I realized something. Where are the citizens in this game? Has no one noticed a 10-year-old running around all over the city? On an unrelated note, this track that plays here is so calming for some reason. Something I also really love about this stage is this puzzle right here. You can't just use accelerate to get past this gate. You have to use forms to get the cage-sized bridge to move, and once you've done that, then you can use accelerate to get past the gate. This is great level design, and I really wish they did more puzzles like this that require more than one alien. Soon enough we get to the Golden Gate Bridge, and while we don't greet Shadow there, we do greet the Vilgax mercenaries, and luckily this time around, I got one of He-Fal's moves known as the Fire Plum, which takes down enemies that can fly. He-Blast and Cannonballs are great for these types of enemies, so be sure to get their moves. Once we've taken out the trash from the city, we have to clean the forest up because Kevin escaped into the woods and Grandpa went after him.
Diamond Head shards. Kevin must have gotten Grandpa.
Oh, you think? Now the question is, where's he going? Time to get some answers.
And so we make it to the woods, and Jesus Christ, that water is so beautiful. Also, Gwen, please stop telling me what I'm supposed to do. I'm past that now. This level also introduces a new type of enemy known as the plant creatures. They bite hard, and I do mean it, so use heavy attacks on them. Also, get ready for something that took longer than it was supposed to. A puzzle that required accelerate to hit all the switches at the same time, and it took me 2 minutes to get right, because I was rushing this to get recorded. So, Here's the footage of me failing like 5 times or whatever, but sped up. And finally, we found Max right after fighting some more plant monsters. But we'll have to deal with an old foe, Kevin 11.
Uh-oh. I got grandpappy. Now what you gonna do?
Kevin has all of the original 10 aliens' powers, so he packs a punch. He's not bullshit luckily because Ben is still stronger. Why, you may be asking?
Too bad each one of those is only a tenth as powerful as mine.
Once we've taken him down, Kevin doesn't really care that he got his ass kicked. Because Ben and everyone else on this planet is gonna...
No, wait. Don't let them take me back. Save me.
What the fuck, did you see that? He just got pulled into the null void for no reason. But who is this group that sent him back? It's awfully too hard to figure out. But before they can figure it out, the news reports some alien plant creatures running amok in the northwest. And so the gang goes to stop these creatures, and it leads to my least favourite level in the game. This level is kinda drag for me. Nothing about it is bad, it just doesn't feel that necessary to the game. This is Kuma Sage levels of ugly. Nothing worth noting here besides this.
There's some similarities between this mace root's DNA and wildvines.
Can you guess who's going to be re-unlocked? Speaking of that mace root, is the first of these larger enemies that are tougher to beat down. So use more of your heavy and some of your special attacks for them. Before we move on, let me mention something useful for you. You see that Omnitrix icon? That lowers the cost of paying for your time as the aliens when you use a powerful move. Please do not miss these at all because they are your friend. Oh, and get the DNA boosters for your health bar to get it longer. Anyways, once we've done a level that really did not need to be here, we learn there's another reporting of alien plants in Seattle. Once we make it to Seattle, it turns out that the plant creatures came from that giant plant thing.
It looks like whatever's been spreading all these plant pods around has taken root at the top of the city.
And I'm supposed to fight that?
Think of it as revenge for every vegetable you've ever been forced to eat.
It's payback time.
Getting to the boss fight, it's not as tough as I remembered it being. Me not getting good at games? Never thought that would happen. Despite its attacks being easy to avoid, it will kill you in a few hits if you rush with the boss. Phase 1 is just slamming its head on you, biting you and doing some swing attack. To do damage, you have to destroy its plant balls. 2 more are added from the previous phase, might I add. Once you've busted its balls, you have to use cannonball to hit its throat. Phase 2 is the same, but this time you have to avoid the fire it breathes out. And the final phase is just the same, but with more balls you have to destroy. Once you've busted its balls for the 3rd time, Cannonball beats its ass, and then this happens. So freaking cool. After we beat it and the sky returns to blue, the next alien we get back is...
Oh yeah, I'm a mean green butt-kicking machine.
Of course! That plant monster must have been charged up by Wildvine's DNA. This can't all be a coincidence. Why are all of our bad memories suddenly coming back to haunt us?
Yeah, because you totally haven't faced some of these guys since season 1. Great memory you got, Gwen. And now it's time to find out who is behind all the old foes coming back, and you totally won't believe who it is. Get ready for it, and it's Vilgax. Totally shocked it was him who did it. To be serious, it was pretty easy to figure out it was him. Even as a kid, I knew he was going to be in the game. I mean, he's on the front cover. It's his robot that sucked out the crystals out of the Omnitrix. It's his robot that was sent to kill him. And his orbits are everywhere in the first and second area of the game. This is literally Crash 2's big plot twist 10 years later. Although at least in this game they don't flat out tell you it's Vilgax who's pulling the strings, but still, they could have done a much better job at it. Why not introduce a new villain to trick us into thinking they're the one who's responsible for stealing the Omnitrix crystals, and then around this point, really was Vilgax all along. That way, the characters questioning who it is wouldn't make them look dumb. But to give praise, Vilgax is quite creepy in the scene. I was really scared of Vilgax when I was a little kid, so seeing this for the first time, well, it gave me chills. Another thing I like to give praise to is Vilgax's goal and his plan. He wants to use the No Void projector for, well, evil of course, and some other reason, but don't want to spoil it just yet. How he does this is by stealing the crystals so that Ben couldn't be in his way of retrieving the components he needed, and he's managed to retrieve almost everything he needs because of a certain someone.
Meanwhile...
All these rotting plants reek!
Look who's talking. Don't you remember our talk about forearms needing 4 times the deodorant?
Just like the last area, we have another enemy rush level, and this one is actually challenging, which is a good thing. That mainly came from the fact that I was mostly playing as Wildvine, so yeah. Speaking of Wildvine, he controls great. His special attack is great for stunning enemies, and the heavy combos known as the Vine Crush and Swing Whip have great range. He's really fun to play as, and using the different combos really made me love this sort of stage. The next stage is another one set at night, and I love nighttime stages in games so much. Another thing Wildvine can do is swing on these weird plant orbs if they're near him. Kinda sad you can't use anything else to swing on, but oh well, the swinging is kinda fun. Also, listen closely to the sound effect. The enemies we'll be facing this time are the werewolves and mummies that were on Ghost Freak's side in Season 3. They are probably my favourite enemies in this game because they are actually worthy of the mighty Ben Tennyson. And they are a good challenge. When I died here, it felt like it was my fault, not some bullshit game design. This was also when I was using more and more combos to take down the enemies in new and exciting ways, instead of just mashing the same combo, which is what I used to do. These guys are so satisfying to take down, and unlike in the past, where I started fighting them, this time I was waku as fuck to pull off new moves and new strategies on them. Another great thing about this level is this puzzle. We've been told to use accelerates full speed for switches, and what do we have here? Just these statues, but once you touch them they stay up for a bit before going down, a lot like the switches. And because you've been told to use accelerate for something like this, you immediately think to use them for this puzzle. That's some great game design, simple but so effective. As for anything I don't like, it's the alternate versions of the werewolf and mummy enemy. Why did they need to make a new werewolf enemy that can do the sonic blast, when the regular version could do that in the actual series? And why is there a mummy that uses wind to attack?
Poison Ivy's got nothing on me. Look at you, so cute and tiny. Get up and I'll hit you harder.
But before we can finish the stage, we have another boss fight. And who is it?
When this portal opens, there'll be no stopping my army from turning the earth into a living nightmare.
Subtle he is. Hex is a complete joke, especially if you use accelerate special attacks. Man barely puts up a fight, his attacks are piss poor, his range is piss poor, his levitating rock attack is piss poor, and okay. If you are near him, his attacks will hit you, but why isn't he using any of his other spells? Well, it's actually because Ghost Freak is controlling him. With the realization that Ghost Freak is the one stealing plumber equipment, they rush to Mount Rushmore. The music used in this stage gives me a calm yet uncertain and tension-filled atmosphere. The first 2 battles, and the last rush of enemies at the end of the stage.
I just bowled a 300 on your face!
It's getting hot in here. So hot.
They all do a great job making the player wonder if they'll be able to make it to the equipment before Ghost Freak does. At the same time though, we do get other tracks to ease the tension. Or a track that just makes you feel like a fucking child.
That's what you get for playing with fire.
Around this point I got the grenade pods and I feel mixed about them. My main problem is the fact that enemies have to be far away enough from you in order to hit them. At the same time though, the bombs do make beating enemies less overwhelming, especially if you have a bunch of werewolves trying to kill you. Luckily we do have two other moves that use Wildvine's plant bombs. Enemies are much tougher than they were last time and I love that so much. As I've played this game, I've slowly thought how to beat enemies and now I'm using all the aliens and their moves on them to see what's the best way to take them down without getting knocked out and turning back into Ben. Which happened a lot in this and the next stage. These guys do not hold back. They are out for your blood, especially the Victor enemies. They are slower than the Mummy and Werewolf, however they can teleport and rush right at you. Luckily their turning isn't very good, so you'll be fine if you get out of the way in time. However, these guys aren't pushovers. In fact, they are so strong that even blocking as forearms, they will still drain your health bar down. So use heavy and special attacks to take them down. And luckily for me, I unlocked a new move known as the Slappy Meal. What does it do? This. After we have made it to the thing that we weren't told what we were trying to get to before Max tells us what it was we were trying to get to, surprise surprise, Ghost Freak took the Ethereal Amplifier. What it does is boost negative energy to dimensional proportions. Or in layman's terms, it's going to make the null void portal even bigger. And so, where are we going to find the ghost with the most freak? In the Windy City, otherwise known as Chicago. So yeah, another city level, and yes, this is also one of my favorite levels in the game. Ghost Freak's army is even tougher than they were last time, and guess what? I am very glad because it's so satisfying beating them down and using different combos. And the music? Absolutely amazing. When we get to the construction site, we have a puzzle that made me think we need more than one alien, and I was wrong sadly. I'll give him points for at least subverting my expectations. Something better than what the MCU does.
Check for ramps in your area. Looks like Cannonbolt could help here.
Gwen, I literally just spin dashed my way through here. What the fuck are you looking at? And again, where the hell are the civilians in this game? Has no one seen a bunch of aliens fighting against horror monsters? Also, I fucking love how this stage looks, especially when we get to the rooftops. This game perfectly translates the show's also into 3D, despite the jank animations of the characters, but more on that later. Also, does anyone get 2003 Ninja Turtle vibes from this part of the stage? Speaking of TMNT, this level also ends with Ben beating up Ghost Freak's army on a train. A lot like that Ninja Turtles game that came out the same year as this game did, which is also another game I played a lot during my youth. I should review that game someday. If you're wondering why we're ending the stage on a train, well, it's because Gwen and Max are in the rust bucket and Ben is far away from them. And the train is coincidentally taking them to where Ghost Freak is heading, which is where Max and Gwen are heading. Meanwhile in space, Steve Bloom is talking to himself.
You have done well, my Ectonurian ally. And one good turn deserves another. So much power. Yes, now go use it to claim the Omnitrix as your own, and finally rid us both of that insufferable brat Tennyson once and for all! The fool thinks he is hunting me, but the hunter shall soon become the prey!
Once we make it to Ghost Freak's hideout, he reveals that the Omnitrix energy has made him much more stronger than he was before. And he is even more powerful than the Watch now. In other words, he's not gonna be easy to take down.
So's your breath, but that's the least of your problems.
Your little watch cannot save you now, Benjamin. I am beyond its power, and this time there is no escape.
Getting into the boss fight, we don't actually fight him. he instead possesses each of his Freak Show minions to fight Ben. In order to do actual damage to Ghost Freak, you must beat the shit out of the bodies he's controlling and then turn into Wildvine to pull the blinds up to real sunlight, which will cause him to freak out. There's 4 phases to this boss fight. The first 3 are the same, but with more than one of his underlings trying to kill you. And once those 3 phases are over, he freaks out, which causes the floor to break and becomes completely invisible once we make it to underground. So in order to damage him, we have to use forms to move these statues to bring light onto him, which makes him mad that he couldn't use his full power or whatever it was he was trying to do. Ghost Freak will appear and disappear, making it hard for you to attack him. He will also attack you after appearing, and he will not give you enough time to attack back, because he will disappear again. Another move he does is creates 2 fakes of himself and gives you a hint to which one is the real him because of the purple eye of his glowing. Once you find him, beat the ever-living shit out of him. And the final move he does is his iconic weird tentacle attack. And finally, another quick time event is here, and this time it's Wildvine's turn to shine. And it's also Grumpy Max's time to shine as well, as he makes it just in time to open a null void portal and Wildvine kicks Ghost Freak into the null void, ending with this lovely moment between grandfather and grandson. Afterwards, the crystal we get here isn't like the previous one. I say that because while it brought back the Omnitrix to full power, Ben can't access any of his other forms, and it appears that the crystal had all of its DNA stripped out. And shocking of all shocks, someone is using Ben's DNA in the south. Okay, so I'm gonna go on a little rant for a bit. This game is called Ben 10, yet only 5 of his aliens are playable. While I know the whole game is supposed to be about Ben getting back all of his aliens, I am really confused as to why we couldn't have more than 5 aliens unlocked after this. Now, for those who haven't played it in years or haven't played it, you're probably wondering if you can unlock anything by collecting these Suma cards in each of the levels, which I also forgot to mention, but I didn't really feel like mentioning until now. And you are partly right. While you can unlock clips of Ben turning into 11 of his aliens, the only unlockable characters you get are reskins of Ben and the 5 aliens he has. And how do you get these? By using cheat codes. Yes, the Suma cards unlock absolutely nothing but fucking clips. This did not need to be in the game at all. At the time this game came out, Ben had 19 aliens. I am not saying this game needed to have all of them, but I do think they should have had 10 of them. I mean, the game is called Ben 10 after all. Now, Grey Matter, Ripjaws, Ghost Freak, and Waybreak, I completely understand as to why they weren't used in the game. Grey Matter is, well, too small. Ripjaws is a fish, so he needs water. Ghost Freak is complicated. And Waybreak as well. But the other 10 aliens that are not in this game couldn't be included? The game was clearly being made during the run of the first series, so they needed to get it out in time for Christmas and while the original series was still huge. And because of that, they probably wouldn't have enough time to make each puzzle different and requiring more than one alien to solve them. Which is fine. You don't have to make more interesting puzzles just to save time. I'm fine with that. But why do we need variants of the Werewolf, Money, Stinkfly Snake, and Wild Mud Bobcat enemy for? I should also mention there's an enemy that uses Diamond Head's powers. And you know who else does that? Kevin. And what else can he do? He can fly and attack you like Wild Mud. Oh, and he can also shoot a laser beam from his eyes. Which alien does that? Upgrade. What they could have done is cut the variants of these later enemies and use 5 of these guys as the aliens we get to play as after the Ghost Freak levels. I mean, it's not that fucking hard, is it? But at least this game does have an in-game reason as to why we can't play as the other aliens, unlike the next game. So I'll cut them some slack. On the bright side though, we at least have hero control. What it does is allow you to change into the other aliens without having to turn back into Ben, though you still get time taken off when using powerful moves. It is pretty useful admittedly during these later fights, since from this point on, battles will get even more tougher. And I am partly happy with that. Getting into the next stage, we greet the before mentioned Stinkfly Snake and Bobcat enemies, and they stink and bite like a bastard. The Stinkfly creatures not only shoot that weird green stuff, but they also won't go away unless you destroy the nest. There's also a very pointless variant that requires you to use aerial attacks in order to kill it. The Bobcat enemy luckily doesn't have a mouth like this clown, but it is another enemy that has a variant, but much more on that later. The fur line isn't super strong or super fast, but it's still gonna take some time to take it down. And as you've noticed, I'm not super enthusiastic about these enemies. It's mainly because they don't have many moves and the regular Freeline and Snakefly enemies are, well, not very strong. The striker variant puts up more of a fight, and the Fairline variant is... I'll talk about that later. But in the meantime, we reach the lab that is creating these knockoffs, and it's pretty easy. What you have to do here is beat up all the remaining enemies and then hit these switches, which will stop them from creating more knockoffs. At least in this area of the game as well. Anywho, they then figure out that it's Dr. Animal who's responsible for these creatures. And so they go off to see what he's planning. Oh come on, you had enough time to react and save her. Yeah, this game's animation is very jank. The models are good, but the animation as stated is jank. It's just basic ass movements. Like, guys, this wasn't 1997 no more. You could make movement more expressive. Didn't need to look god tier or anything, but at least make them look less boring. Though I will give it this. It's at least more interesting to look at than some other game that has jank ass animation in its cutscenes. Then, for some reason, we are chasing Clancy even though he's believed to be dead prior to the last few episodes of the show, and somehow he went from a lab to a swamp. And Ben couldn't have just transformed to beat his ass. Oh well, you know, never fucking mind. The next stage is one I remember a lot. Partly because I always died in this stage as a kid. This stage is okay in my eyes. It's one of the two Calm Before the Storm levels, and it does an okay job. This stage also introduces the Fairline Pouncer, and these guys are such cunts when there's a gang of them. Especially with the fucking bear enemies, but more on that later. These cunts are literally just a normal Fairline, but with better speed and attack. They are okay when there's not too many of them, but when there's like 4 or 5, yeah, they can be such fucking cunts. I will admit, I was rushing to finish this area of the game because, well, I'm not a huge fan of it. This area isn't bad, it's just never made much of an impression on me, besides the next stage, and the boss fight at the end of the 4th area. Speaking of boss fights, Clancy is our next foe, and he is a walk in the park. Though he at least gets his army of insects to shield him once in a while, unlike Hex who was piss easy. Afterwards, Max and Ben interrogates him, and they'll let the scene play out.
You're too late. With his new base, the good doctor has all the energy he needs to return this planet to its rightful masters. And quite soon, your girl will be no more than just another mixed-up creature in his mutant menagerie.
Take it easy, Grandpa. We'll save her. I promise.
Seriously, I love Ben's words at the end. Even though he's still a cocky kid, he does show that he can take things seriously, unlike his omniverse self. The last stage of this area is very nostalgic. It's another Calm Before the Storm level, but much more memorable in my eyes. It's not nighttime nor is it daytime, it's somewhere in between and it's very calming. The music is also what brings back a lot of memories. Speaking of memories, I remember Crystal Claws. Not only did I die many times to it, but it was also a fucking pain to kill. Their attacks take a lot of your health, and can even take health away if you are blocking with this attack. Blocking is a key to killing these enemies. Doing so will throw them off balance, which will make them your bitch. Use everything in your arsenal to take them down. Though don't use forearm special attack. Their reaction time is so fast they won't give you enough time to grab them. Unless you make them dizzy, which I didn't do because I was wishing to get this area recorded. Also, I hope they managed to recover from that damage because I would hate to be one of the citizens waking up and seeing this shit. Anywho, after we take a ship back to the rust bucket, we soon find Animal's hideout being an offshore rig.
Avast, ye swabbies, and swash me buckles. Someone's gonna get a taste of my four-fisted knuckles.
Ben, stay focused. This isn't a pleasure cruise we're on. There's some sort of subspace transmission emitting from this refinery.
Really? Because I don't see one.
While you find Dr. Animo.
Oh, yeah.
I'm proud of you, Ben. Your cousin needs you, and you can do it.
Right.
Anywho, Gwen is fine, but we don't have time to worry about that because Animo is here. And he is a great boss fight. Reason being because I got my ass kicked by him. No joke, he actually killed me 4 fucking times. Animo uses a gorilla suit, and so his attacks will take a lot of your health. But as long as you block, you'll be fine. Once you've attacked him enough, the suit will stop where he will need to fix it. this is your chance to beat his ass. And after you do that, he'll jump onto the towers that for some reason have a switch which will make him fall down when you touch them, leading to a quick time event. The second phase is the same, but some of his attacks will damage you even if you block. And the final phase is... well, it's where I fucking died most of the time. This attack he does will damage you even when blocking. And that's honestly a good thing because, well, it's probably my fault why I fucking died. Rule number 1 about fighting gorillas: do not get cocky. Hell, this part of the fight got so heated, I actually turned back into Ben, but at the same time, I managed to damage him enough in order for him to get onto the towers, which gave me the key to victory. And so, Ben beats the ever-living shit out of him and throws the Gorilla Man into the ocean, and oh fuck you game. It turns out that the satellite communicator Animal had was being used to communicate with Vilgax, who is now orbiting the Earth. And we finally know why he needed the Omnitrix crystals, the null void projector, and the Evil amplifier. It's to suck the whole planet into the null void. And I am surprised he managed to get these guys to help him. Despite the fact that Enoch is supposed to be in jail or wherever he is after season 4, Kevin and Vilgax's last team up did not end so well. Ghostface somehow managed to escape the Omnitrix again after Be Afraid of the Dark. But whatever, it's not a big deal anyway. So, what is the gang gonna do to stop him? Get help from Washington DC. Unfortunately, we have to do another fucking enemy rush level. And unlike the other times where I actually like them, this one I fucking hate. Why? The bear and pouncer enemies are such cons when there is a lot of them. I died 4 fucking times in this overly long stage. I don't want to fight these clowns, I just want to get to Washington DC before Vilgax wins. But I eventually used all my might and all my will to fucking finish these cunts.
Hurry and get strapped in. We've wasted enough time already.
Hey, I did just smack down all those uglies. How about a little credit here?
Gwen, compliment your cousin.
Nice watch. Where'd you get it?
While we make our way to Washington, no energy levels are rising everywhere, one of them being the National Mall. Ben decides to tackle the problem, telling his family he'll catch up in a flash. A really nice moment for Ben in this game, followed by this.
And try not to embarrass me while I'm gone.
Now that the Power Flux module has been repaired, Ben can finally use Master Control, meaning no time taken off when using powerful moves. While I do prefer the risk versus reward style we've had before, this at least is helpful since the last 2 enemies and the final boss are not a pushover. The returning enemies are the Vilgax robots, drones, and the mercenaries, and while they're still not super powerful, I seem to have noticed they're putting a bit more of a fight. Though it might be because I decided to give them a chance, and I was also trying to use other moves as well. However, there is one enemy that'll give you a run for your money, the Detrovites. Their attacks can and will take you out of your alien form and kill you in your human form. Blocking can still work, however it doesn't always work, because they tend to use the heavier attacks. It's honestly best recommended to use the heavy attacks first, then use the special attacks to finish them off. Speaking of attacks, here's a montage of me enjoying myself.
He never knew I hit it.
One thing I love so much about this stage is the design of it. The Earth is being sucked in and there's a few ships that have destroyed the environment. Great way of showing how dire the situation is getting. Certainly a lot better than what Race Against Shite did. After taking the trash out, we learned that the communications are down, which means the gang won't be able to get any official assistance on this one. So, what does the gang do now? Ben suggests they could steal some rockets from Cape Carnival, which is a good idea given the situation, and Max actually goes with this plan, dashing forward to Cape Carnival. Oh, and don't worry, there is barely any staff members here because most of them went home to be with their families. Meanwhile, the others are probably dead thanks to Vilgax's army. What our job here is to get to the experimental propulsion labs, but we still gotta deal with Vilgax's forces. Also, I hope we didn't break anything important here because if we have, well... but who cares about that? The government has enough money anyway, so it's not a big deal. Our final enemy variant is the Ditchavite Berserker. These guys are not only stronger and tougher, but deadlier too. Their drill attack can kill you if you are too close to it. This and the last stage pretty much use every action track, and honestly it helps make these levels even more fucking epic. The puzzles sadly are still the same hit the switches to get past puzzles, though we do at least get two that require using the alien's powers. Like this one, where you have to use accelerate speed to hit the switches without getting killed by the spinning ball thing. Or this one that requires forms of strength, cannonball spin dash, and Wildvine's vine swinging in order to hit the switches which will deactivate these rockets so you can get past. Look, I know I've bitched about how simple the puzzles are, but I'll give them credit for at least using the alien's abilities for something. And so we make it to where the rockets are, however we have to deal with 6-6, and he's not very hard to beat. I am a little sad by that. I had to make the boss more challenging for myself and he's still tame on you. Though he at least has moves that can knock you out of the alien form. Especially the missile attack which almost killed me on a few occasions. And after we've beaten him, Max attaches the rockets to the rust bucket, and we fly off into space to greet Vilgax. Gwen and Max will destroy the null void projector, meanwhile Ben will do the honors of kicking Vilgax's ass.
Don't worry, Grandpa. I'll make sure Squidface has his hands full.
And now we have finally reached Vilgax, the one who is responsible for everything that's happened in this game. And I still get goosebumps whenever this cutscene plays.
I shall destroy the Tennysons, and then I will erase all traces of their homeworld from the eternal fabric of time and space itself!
Getting into the boss, Vilgax attacks by stomping, dashing and whipping. He does not fuck around whatsoever, so please use the block. After you damage him enough, he'll rush back to the Aetherial Amplifier to go huge again. But if you hit these switches in time, Vilgax will be electrocuted, leading to the first Q2E of the boss. Phase 2 has Vilgax, for some reason, being able to fly and also being able to unleash an electrical wind that will take you out of your alien form. His moves in Phase 1 are much more powerful this time, so please do be careful. In order to damage him, use cannonballs and spin dash on the ramps to knock Vilgax down. He will however start flying again, meaning you'll have to use the ramps again like 2 or 3 more times. The final phase has him being able to fly, but also can shoot squid missiles and shoot an energy beam that can electrocute you. In this phase you have to use Wildvine in order to get him out of his flight state, and once you have attacked him enough, it's time for the final quick time event. Ben uses all of his aliens on him, and it's pretty fucking brutal too, and it's also so satisfying to see. But the object suddenly times out, but Ben luckily manages to avoid Vilgax, leading to the funniest way he's been defeated. This final boss has everything. It's got stakes, it's got epic music, the challenge is great, and it uses the 5 aliens very well. With Vilgax defeated, the remaining crystals appear and Ben dashes to become whole again. However, that thing is very unstable, and once Ben, I think, gets back all his aliens, the null void projector is destabilizing. Without the crystals, it can't contain all that energy, and so they make a mad dash to the rust bucket. While they make it out, the null void is now sucking in Vilgax's ship, while the Earth is going back to its proper placement. And so we end the game off with the trio asking what they should do next, now that they can finally get back to their vacation. And after the end credits, oh my fucking god, that's disgusting. So yeah, the game ends with Vilgax's body being fixed somehow, and he claims he will return to become a joke of a villain. No, maybe this is why he looks different in Alien Force. But that isn't all we have, because we also have a secret ending. And it's another enemy rush level, this time featuring different enemies throughout the game that get more stronger and tougher as the stage goes on. This time featuring different enemies throughout the game that get more stronger and tougher as the stage goes on. Luckily the fucking Pouncer is in here. As for the level itself, it's a decent stage with some nice progression of difficulty. After defeating them, it turns out the gang is lost in the null void, and the game actually ends with them being stuck in the null void. Certainly a fucked up ending, but I'm pretty sure the gang got out somehow. And that was Ben 10 Protector of Earth. My god, this game is so much better than I remembered. Its story, despite not handling the mystery well, and it is pretty basic when you get down to it, it is an engaging ride, and the characters all feel like how they were in the show. All voiced by the original actors too, making this game fit right into canon more easily despite not being officially part of the timeline. Speaking of canon, I believe it is most likely to fit well in between after the events of Destroyer Aliens and before Alien Force. Seeing as how Gwen State's notable foes have returned, Animal looks older, Zaskar is in his complete form, Vilgax looks more like his future self this time, and seeing as how Ben literally did this to him in the climax of Secret of the Omnitrix, I doubt it took a few days for Vilgax to pull this shit off, so it's most likely set in the next year's summer. The gameplay, while simple and nothing innovative, is really fun, and the moves are creative and pack a lot of punch. Each area's enemy gets tougher than the last, and the progression is great. It gradually gets tougher, but it never feels bullshit or repetitive. As stated, the puzzles could have been more creative, but they at least didn't bring the stage to a slow pace, and they helped break up the fights too. I'd highly recommend this game. Even if you're not a Ben 10 fan, you'll still have a great time with this game. The game was released on other consoles as stated, while the Wii version has slightly better graphics out of all of them, all three are equally good and you'll have a blast with either version. The DS version is a watered down version, and that's all I can say because I've never played this version of the game. Maybe one day I'll take a look at it, but now's not the time. Overall, this game is a childhood favorite that holds up. I'm genuinely surprised I love this game even more now than I did when I first replayed it back in 2018. It's something I'll always look forward to revisiting, and I'm glad I was able to review it. Ben 10 is what 87 TMNT, Power Rangers, Transformers, Spider-Man 94, and Dragon Ball Z was for my generation. It gave me laughs, cries, joy, anger, frustration, hype, and many other emotions. But most importantly, it gave me memories. Memories that I will always look back on fondly. Even if Ben 10 fell off after Ultimate Alien, what came before won't change and will always stand the test of time, just like many other franchises before and after. It is truly a 10 of a kind show.